mentioned on there, just before we there's lots more I want to ask you, but one of the things you mentioned was, and it's such a key point, I think it's worth going back to, just about if you've got a HR team or a team that's involved in the communication side of it, making sure they're all on the same page. And again, that's something that's often overlooked, isn't it? Or there's an assumption that everyone will understand and know, but a lot of the time that's just not true, is it?
No.
How would you...
Well, when you're giving out a message, especially a message that isn't good news, because those are the ones that are the hardest. The good news messages, everybody's going to be surprised or, happy, whatever. So those messages tend to kind of flow out okay, but it's the not so good messages. I think if you're a leader and you have a team, you get your team leads together before you announce it to the whole company and get their feedback, because they know their teams the best. Like, how are they going to receive it? So, if it's the sales manager, and you say, look, we're going to have to downsize the sales team by 2, how are your guys or girls going to receive that message and get their feedback on it and go through the different departments as well, so that they understand how, because they're going to be in that case of a larger company, if you've got 20 plus employees, your team leads are going to be the ones that are going to deliver the nuts and bolts of the message. So they have to know in advance what the message is. They have to know what you as a leader are thinking. They have to be able to interpret that message for their own department and calm them down in the second phase. So yes, having everybody on the same page is 100% important, 100%.
Yeah. And also, like, the team leader, whatever, who's delivering the message, or not delivering the message, but if you give maybe a video message or whatever, everyone's going to go to their team leader to then express their delight or sadness or anger or whatever it is, isn't it? So yeah, it's from the leadership perspective, it's making sure you look after the team that are staying and are sort of having to rebuild and change the culture and all the rest of it, whilst the whole company sort of navigates through the process of having to let people go or whatever the scenario might be. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like what you said about getting feedback from other people, because one of the dangers we see is we can assume that everybody thinks the way we do or will respond in the way we do and all of that. And everyone's so different a lot of the time, aren't they? They're wired differently, they're going through different stuff, so they've got different pressures that maybe will cause them to react a different way at this point in time as you announce something, whereas 6 months ago they would have probably been quite relaxed about it, depending what the message is. So this is good stuff. Any other bits and pieces with regards to communication and engagement? Any sort of strategies or just things that you think this is a really useful thing to share?
Well, I think good communications and engagement are the key core parts of your company culture. So that if you do this right, then your company culture will grow naturally into a really good culture. When you have a really good business culture, it is not difficult to get people to work with you, because funnily enough, people leave a company as long as the pay is generally okay. A lot of people leave a corporation because they can't handle the corporate culture. They have a horrible boss. They have terrible time frames to get the work done. There's too much pressure on the individual as a person. It's not necessarily the work itself, it's the way the work is done, the way the employees engage with each other, how helpful other employees are, team members are, that kind of thing. And if you don't get your communication and engagement right, you're going to have a horrible corporate culture. It will just naturally grow to be horrible, right? The same happens if you're really good at communication and engagement. your company culture is going to flourish. Therefore, people that work for you will recommend other people. Like say you have an opening and you've got a head of sales that says, hey, you know, I understand you have a marketing opening. I know so-and-so, he worked for such and such. He's a great guy. He'd be a great fit. Because that's what you want. You want people not necessarily all the same in the way they work, that not necessarily, but they have the same sort of business cultural aspect. You get a toxic employee, one that hates working for you, trashes the company. That's not the kind of person you want. So if you've got that kind of environment, you're going to attract that kind of person. Sort of poisonous person, if you sort of could put it that way.
Yeah.
But if you have a great company corporate culture, then people are going to want to work for you. Your existing employees are going to want to recommend people that they know, you know, through working outside or inside the company, or, you know, if it's a large company, people that would fit your division, like, you know, work-wise. I definitely found that working for a large corporation, there were people I would interact with that I would think of for different jobs. They had no idea that I was kind of vetting them for those jobs or recommending them for those jobs. But it's the way they interacted. If I felt that they fit the way our corporation was, you know, in the culture, then I would definitely sort of promote them or cross-promote them into other positions or recommend them for other positions. And that's what happened to me. I had a boss that was that way, that said, you know, like every time something came up that I was the right fit for, she would position me with the, you know, the top leadership of the company and give her recommendation for me to be on the team, because she knew that I would always have the back of the team and her back, et cetera, et cetera. So if you build those relationships and build a good culture, then it's going to help you advance as an employee. So yeah, very important, that culture that you develop in yourself and within your company.
Yeah, because like culture will attract other people of the same kind of position, shall we say. So yeah,
exactly.
really good culture, it magnetizes good people. You got a toxic culture, you're not going to be attracting the people that you want to keep them.
You're not going to attract the top people if you have a toxic culture.
Yeah,
you know, they're going to find another company that's a better fit for them. Now, people don't necessarily say all this, right? But they're thinking this.
Yep.
They're thinking this. So although your message may not seem important at the time, it is extremely important to the individual. So yeah, it's one of the biggest things is communication and engagement. Absolutely. And the leader's responsibility is to make that the best that they can be, you know, the best communication, the best engagement, and bring everybody in on how to handle that too, like your team leads. Bring them in. What would you say? How would you say it? You know, get their input, because people like to give their own opinion, you know?
Yeah, no, that's crucial. Yeah, and sometimes it's not prioritized enough, is it? Like the targets are set, the mission is kind of communicated one way or another, but then it's almost diluted by the actions that follow, where the focus is on just the targets and not building a healthy sort of culture of well-being and looking after your staff and motivating them and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's such a key point to bring up. So,
and actually that starts on the hiring process. When you're hiring somebody for your company, communication and engagement is extremely important in the hiring process, right?
Yeah.
How you create the questions, how you interview people, how you show up as a leader, sort of is going to, one, bring out the best in the interview for your candidates, and two, help them want to come and work for you. So right from the very beginning. And then once you've hired your employee, communication and engagement, again, is extremely important. You just don't dump them into the, into the office space with their computer and their phone and whatever it is, the tangible things that go with the job and a job description. You have to make sure that they meet and greet everybody that is, in different departments, so that they feel comfortable. Like when we hired a person, they actually did no work for the whole of the first week. So the whole of the first week was spent in helping them understand what each department did, right down to the warehouse floor. They'd pick and pack orders so they understood the RF system, because it all works together, right? And the person on the factory floor is just as important as the CEO. So, you know what I mean? Like, if you're hiring in, that communication engagement is so important right from the get-go, so that at the end of a week, an employee would say, wow, I learned so much this week. I learned how customer service worked, accounting worked, IT worked, sales worked, everything. And then I got to sit down with the CEO and ask whatever question I wanted to ask. How great is that?
Yeah.
And then the second week, you feel very relaxed that and confident that you can fit into this company and add to it by the work that you do, right? So yeah, extremely important.
It also, I like what you said there, because it also sets the framework for every employee of the bigger picture, isn't it? Like, for some people, maybe they're not at the point where they really want to know all the details of what's going on, but once they're exposed to all the different facets and sees how it works, that can be sort of motivating, inspiring. Whereas if you've got people that are a lot more sort of keyed up and sort of motivated, then exposing them to the different facets and sort of how it all works together, you're going to encourage ideas, aren't you? Maybe they've got the idea that's going to transform your processes that nobody's thought of before, but suddenly, one suggestion, one idea, because you've created that space for them to grow, to learn about different parts than just, as you say, their job description. That's really good.
Right on. You absolutely hit the nail on the head there, because the more relaxed a person is when they're a newbie, the more open they are to giving out their ideas. And as you said, like, one great idea could save you like, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah. But if the person isn't sure that they can feel free to give their idea, they're going to bottle that up, and you'll never be the recipient of the savings if you're the corporation, because the person didn't feel comfortable suggesting it in the first place.
No, that's really good. I think from all of what you said, we're very close to the end of the episode, but the thing that comes back to me from what you said at the beginning really is having the sort of the empathy aspect that fuels both how you communicate internally, but then externally as well. That's how you engage more. The more empathy we show towards the people that we're trying to help, whatever the goods, services we're providing, the more we're going to connect with them, aren't we? So it's going to be a positive perspective and experience from their point of view and for ours as well. So it's really good. Hopefully people are listening thinking, yeah, okay, I need to explore this more, find out more about how I can communicate in a more simpler way, but also how I can foster a good engagement and a culture where people engage at different levels, wherever they are in the sort of the business, the organization, however big or small it is as well. So that's really good. Obviously, we're going to say grab the book because we know it's got lots of valuable things in. Elaine's just touched on the surface of some of the bits in this chapter that she's written. It also links in well with culture from some of the other chapters, how to build good team culture that Rick sort of talked about. It's definitely worth exploring. Obviously, I'm biased, but I would say that. But we've both been in leadership for a long time, and we've seen
the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yes, and how costly it can be if things are just not quite honed as well as they could be. Because leaders have more influence, there's a bigger effect. Obviously, when you get it right, it's very positive. and everyone benefits a lot more. But yes, that doesn't happen by default generally, does it?
No, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And if you do get your message wrong when you're delivering it the first time, then go back and correct it. Acknowledge that you didn't do a good job in explaining it, and explain it better the second time. There's no harm in that. Like, people want to know that their leaders aren't perfect. You know, we all make mistakes, and
Yeah.
to acknowledge your mistake and move forward with it, you know, by giving the message in a slightly different way so that they understand it better. There's nothing wrong in that. So that's what I mean, that people, your employees, want to know that you're vulnerable too, that you're not perfect.
Yeah.
So bear that in mind, that when you're giving out your message, that you're not perfect yourself. So don't be afraid to show your imperfection.
Yeah. In lots of ways, that breeds a closer, stronger loyalty faster when it's sincere and it's done properly. It makes such a difference. So yeah, totally agree with all of that. This is brilliant. How can people that maybe don't listen to the podcast very often, obviously subscribe, listen to it more often, but how can people touch base with you in different ways?
Well, my corporate website, xlconsultinggroup.com, it has links to connect with me directly. It also, on our Fabulous Fempreneurship website, we have the same thing. We have mentorship for women entrepreneurs. We have a list of podcasts. You know, I also authored a book for startups, for female startups, and that's available on that website too. And if all else fails, you can get hold of me on WhatsApp at 905-639-3555, or via email at Elaine_Slatter, spelled SLATTER, at xlconsultinggroup.com. So lots of ways to get in touch.
Brilliant. Absolutely. So there's no excuse for people listening not to get in touch and find out how Elaine can help you. Just to bring the humanity back, maybe in certain aspects of your leadership, or just helping you tweak your message. Lots of different ways. But definitely review the content that she shared already in this episode. There's lots, you won't catch it all the first time. I don't catch everything the first time I listen to certain episodes again, and you catch different things at different times when you need it. That's what I've found as well.
Exactly.
When the student's ready, the teacher appears, isn't it? Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. That's true.
Brilliant. Thanks, Elaine, for sharing. I know it's your show. Thank you for having me as a guest host. It's been really good. Look forward to when we get to chat again. Always good to chat about leadership and life and how we can help people lots of different ways. So thanks for your input.
Well, thank you for a fun interview. That was fantastic, and I really enjoyed the experience. Thank you.
Brilliant. No, that's good. And for everybody listening, just as we leave it here, we believe in you and we believe in your potential. Take action on something you've heard today, and you can scale your business, grow your leadership, whatever it is that needs to happen. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time.